Welcome to another episode of The Brand Called You, a podcast and podcast show that brings you leadership lessons, knowledge, experience, and wisdom from thousands of individuals from around the world. I am your host, Ashutosh Garg, and today I'm delighted to welcome a very, very accomplished and senior professional from the Netherlands, Mr. Ken van Ierlant. Ken, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. You're welcome.
Ken is the managing director and digital strategist at FutureXL. So Ken, let's talk about FutureXL. Tell me a little bit about the work you do.
FutureXL is a high-tech consultancy company that combines business acumen and technology acumen in providing data-centric operating models for incumbent companies. So we don't work for startups or scale-ups. We only work for large incumbent companies and helping them to become data-centric.
Okay.
And what we do is that we bring people with business acumen together, very experienced people in providing these kind of functionalities to our clients.
And when you talk about data centricity, tell me about what is the quintessence of data centricity?
Well, what we see is that almost every company has large amounts of data. In order to use data as a source for value creation, for wealth, what we see is that companies are saturated with data, and approximately 88% of all the data does not bring any value because it's data that does not provide, it does not have any value. Because there is so much of it, it's very difficult to explore where the valuable data is in order to exploit it in a way that it can create data.
Okay.
And the reason is why everybody turns things into IT. And it's not an IT project, it's not even an IT issue, it's a business issue. So we get lost into IT rather than solve things from a business perspective.
Okay. And why is a digital transformation project not an IT project?
Well, because it's a holistic issue. It's about, if you look at incumbent companies today, and if you ask the CEO of the companies, what is your ambition? What would you like to achieve? What would you like to become in 4 to 5 years from now?
Right.
How disruptive you think you can be in competing with other companies in your marketplace? That's quite a challenging job. And the next thing is, how are you going to finance this process, this transformation, where we know that the majority of the companies don't have any time and any money anymore to finance these kind of transformations. Another thing is that from a holistic point of view, they're suffering from legacy systems where they have invested truckloads of money in the past. And another thing is that legislation is changing so fast that you're not compliant anymore. Not compliant anymore to a local regulation, to local law, meaning that it becomes so complex that if you turn things into an IT project, you are slimming things down to a topic that will not create any value for you, will cost a lot of money, and it takes a lot of time in trying to achieve something that you will never be able to achieve.
Okay.
Because it's not an IT problem, it's a business problem.
Okay, understand. And what is the meaning of digital transformation 4.0?
Well, the fact actually is what we've seen before the pandemic, the corona pandemic, is that we've all invested into digital transformation 1.0, which was actually digitization of current operating models and business models, what we call investing in shiny objects or lipstick on a pig. It does not provide any value. So digital transformation 4.0 is actually leapfrogging over a process, a bit by bit process in trying to achieve something. It is about a holistic approach, data centricity, creating business value in a shorter period of time, with a much better time to market, with much better financial goals to achieve. So it's not 1.0, it's not 2.0, it's not 3.0, it is leaping into the future, because we don't have any time anymore, we don't have any money anymore. So we have to do things much more faster and much more smarter than we were used to do.
Interesting. Interesting.
And the interesting thing is that we solve this problem through data. Data is the one single source that will provide you an acceleration in time, an acceleration in financial objectives, and in solving your legacy problems. And we found out through extensive research and many projects that we did with our clients, is that data is the route to go.
Okay.
It's a different way of thinking.
Absolutely. You just mentioned a few minutes ago that a digital transformation project is not an IT project. Then why is IT the culprit of digital transformation failures?
Well, that's a very good question. I've been in this business for 40 years. I've worked in the IT market. I've been a CIO of some very large companies. I've advised boards of directors on this topic. The fact actually is that IT does not understand the business. And we've tried to do all kinds of new methodologies like business IT alignment, and we've never succeeded because it's an ideological thing. It's a culture thing, is that IT does not understand the business and the business does not understand IT. Well, what we've achieved today is that IT has become a commodity, meaning it is cheap, you can get it anywhere, it's in the cloud, meaning you can get rid of IT. And since we can refocus on the business and using new technologies like no-code platforms or multi-sided platforms like Microsoft, is that you can use it as a commodity and pay as you go. Meaning that you can decomplex and demystify the role of IT and focus and refocus on the real business issues using business people without having IT acumen. And that is a different approach. And we see is that technology provides us today with the functionalities that we can focus on business rather than IT.
So Ken, another thing that is talked about a lot is data is the new oil.
Yeah.
My question to you is, why are data-centric companies much more valuable than application-centric companies?
Well, that's also a very good question. The reason behind that is my experience in dealing with data-centric companies in Silicon Valley and in Tel Aviv. What we see is that they use multi-sided platforms, which are, for example, like Microsoft and Google, it's all data-centric. They are built data-centric. What we see, if you are able to chase a lot of traffic over a data-centric platform, that you gain a lot of value. And for example, we see in Google, for example, has built a multi-sided platform. Amazon has done the same thing, and they are able to disrupt industries worldwide simply because their cost to serve is factor 4 to factor 8 lower than any other company in the same branch. So if you're factor 4 to factor 8 cheaper in your operation, your time to market is 6 times shorter, and you're able to adapt any business model to your operating model, you can disrupt any industry worldwide. That's what they're doing. In the past, they provided technologies and selling it to clients. Today, they have become the mercenaries in the industry, disrupting any industry. And that's what they're doing. So what we see is why is Apple so valuable? Why is Google so valuable? Because their operating model is data-centric. And they can adapt any business model onto that data operating model and disrupting any industry. And that's what we see, that's big tech. And if you go to Tel Aviv, there you go to small tech. And what we see is very interesting, is that Israel has something about 5,000 seed capitalists investing in small companies that were all using emerging technologies. And emerging technologies all use data centricity, data as a source to gain value. As they're there, and if they go to the stock exchange, for example, in New York, then you see that the value of these companies explode. That's why they have something about 80 unicorns, while the whole EU only has 23 unicorns. So they're doing something differently than what we're doing. And we're not learning from it. That's the big thing, is that we say data is the oil, the new oil, but you have to explore it before you can exploit it. If you don't know how to explore it, you will never be able to exploit it.
Amazing.
And what we're doing in Europe is the fact, actually, we don't have any IT industry anymore. We don't have high-tech industry anymore because we have sold it out to the Americans or to the Indians, and we have nothing. We have nothing. So we have no platforms. So what's everybody do? All the incumbent companies are doing in Europe, building their own platforms. So how are you going to compete against a platform that is 8 times more efficient than your platform?
Well said. Well said. So moving on, Ken, how can one implement a data-centric operating model without capital expenditure, which is cash flow neutral and which delivers unmatched balance value?
Yeah, well, the fact actually is, what we do is that we use multi-sided platform, and we've chosen, for example, Microsoft Azure, because it's one of the best platforms in this industry, because it provides all the functionalities that you require. We use no-code technology, and because we have turned things into a business issue, that we look at from a business angle, that we say, okay, the data of your company will be cleaned through indexing, categorization, classification, cleaning up. What we leave behind is 12% of valuable data. And what we do is that, using no-code technology in building an operating model where the data reaches your organization, and where we are able to build an integrated workflow that provides you all the functionalities that create business value. So we're not designing business processes like we've done in the past. We create an integrated workflow from your data in providing those business processes that create a value. That means you cut out something about 80% of all the work that we have done in the past.
Wow.
And that's the way we solve legacy systems, cutting away from legacy systems, and in building something that is very adaptive, very lean, and very agile, and that is adaptive to future business processes and changes that will come to your business anytime.
Very interesting. Very interesting. And yet, despite data being all pervasive, everyone talks about it, there is this big question mark all the time about privacy. I would love to get your perspective on how are these big tech or small tech companies going to handle the whole aspect of privacy?
Yeah, well, the fact actually is, one of the few good things that the EU has done is providing new legislation on protecting the individual. And actually what we are protecting is our democracy. It's the individual in our democracy, creating a level playing field where everybody has to comply to this legislation in order to do business in the EU. And since we are the largest economical zone, still are, in the world, that gives us a lot of power. what we see is that in an application-centric environment, where the data is scattered over thousands of applications, you will never be able to reach a notion of accountability in order to become compliant.
Right.
And that's a problem. And what we see is that the only way to achieve compliance is to become data-centric. Because then you have the one single truth in your organization, which you can reach on a real-time basis, and that will protect you against, well, anyway, you'll be able to comply to all new regulations that will come to the market in the next coming years. If you are application-centric, you will not be able to do that, because it's going to cost a lot of money, it's going to cost a lot of time, and you will go flat on your face all the time, and then you will be fined, meaning that you will be lagging behind and you will never be able to catch up.
Very interesting. So, Ken, I'm now going to move gears a little bit and now ask you a couple of questions of you as a digital strategist. What are the opportunities that the pandemic has thrown up for the digital economy?
Well, it's the sense of urgency that digital transformation is a must. As Gartner says, the next coming 10 years, all will be focusing on digital transformation. Well, that's the opportunity, but you have to see the opportunity. You have to understand the opportunity. We encounter a board of directors of large companies, because that's why we do business. What we realize is that the majority of them do not understand what digital transformation is all about, because in their perception, it's still an IT issue, which is not. The opportunity is that you are able to disrupt your competitors in the market in a very short period of time. And what we learned in the pandemic is that we don't have any time anymore to adapt to new market changes, because the world is changing very, very fast. And we're facing new challenges because of the war in Ukraine, because of the results of the pandemic, that many balance sheets have been eaten away because of the length of and the value destruction that has taken place over the last 2 years. So what if you're a CEO of a company and you're hit under the radar screen by a multi-sided platform that will put you out of business because his cost to serve is 8 times lower than yours is, what are you going to do about it? And if you don't have the money in your balance sheet anymore, and you can't get any loans from the bank anymore, or you cannot issue any shares anymore in order to get the finance, get the funding to finance such a change, because whatever transformation you put into place, it always costs money. So what we found out, in a time where there is no time and money anymore, if we can clean up your balance sheet by taking away of all the unnecessary data and unnecessary applications, and turn this into a very efficient and crisp process, and getting you from A to B, that could be the solution. It is the solution.
Okay. Very interesting.
Because we do not approach this from an IT perspective. We use IT as a tool and not as a purpose.
Okay. So, Ken, I've got time for one more question, and I want you now to wear your or to look at your crystal ball as someone who knows the digital industry so well, and you have a company named FutureXL. What would you say are your top 3 predictions for the digital economy?
If large incumbents are not able to adapt to these changes, if the board of directors, of which many are very old school, think they can afford to do this at a very slow pace, they won't be around anymore in 4 to 5 years from now. Because the market is changing so rapidly, where financial ratios are going to play a huge role. What's your return on capital employed? For example, all the financial ratios, it will put you out of business. So the digital age is so important, but you have to do things right, and you have to adapt very fast to all these a new way of doing business. If you can't, you'll be extinct.
Okay.
That's what it is.
Okay. On that note, Ken, thank you so much for speaking to me. Thank you for this absolutely incredible conversation on digital data, on the value of data, on how data will or has become the new oil. And yet, thank you for your word of caution, which is that if you don't change, then you'll disappear in 4 or 5 years.
You will disappear.
Yeah. Thank you again for talking to me, and good luck to you.
Thank you very much, Ashutosh, and I'd like to talk to you again.
So. Thank you. Thank you for listening to the Brand Called You videocast and podcast, a platform that brings you knowledge, experience, and wisdom of hundreds of successful individuals from around the world. Do visit our website www.tbcy.in to watch and listen to the stories of many more individuals. You can also follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Just search for the Brand Called You.